Thank you to today's Game Day Instant Analysis sponsor, Meredith Schlosser, one of the top real estate agents in Los Angeles with over $900 million in sales and more than 295 five-star Zillow reviews. Meredith was recently recognized by Wall Street Journal within the top 1.5% of agents in the nation. You can learn more about Meredith and her team for rentals, sales, and purchases at www.meredithschlosser.com. Also check out her business Instagram at Meredith Real Estate. And now, here's Game Day Instant Analysis.
USC comes on the road and gets a 21-17 win over Nebraska. This is Instant Analysis. I'm Connor Morrissette. He's Shotgun Spratling. Shotgun, a wild game where Jaden Mayava gets it done with his legs tonight. King Miller has a huge game on the ground. USC's defense steps up, holds Nebraska at 3 points in the second half. There's a quarterback injury for the Cornhuskers. But the bottom line is USC got it done in a hostile environment on the road. Just hasn't happened too much in the last couple years. Your initial thoughts on this one?
Yeah, you can look at it positively, and they found a way, right? The defense finally gets that stopped in the game. How many times has it been? 5-6 times the last 2 years where they've had an opportunity to make that final stop and get USC a victory and not been able to have it happen. So this opportunity, it just felt exactly like the Michigan game from last year where quarterback couldn't throw the ball because they had gone to a backup quarterback. He throws, 5 for 7 for 7 yards. They're going to run the ball. They got a good running back, same as Michigan last year. Just don't give up the back-breaking explosive play, and USC didn't do that. But this also game kind of felt like the Spider-Man meme, of all the things we talked about coming in. USC can't play well on the road. Nebraska doesn't play well against ranked teams. And both teams seemed like they were trying to give the game away at various times. And for the final play, the fourth down play for the running back and quarterback to kind of trip over each other, just kind of was the epitomized that. So there's definitely positives to take away from this, finding a way to win and doing all those things. But you also look at it like when a backup quarterback comes in that can't throw the ball, you should be able to start pulling away in this game. USC started slow, some questionable play calling once again. They run the ball really, really well with King Miller. On one drive, they get down inside the 10-yard line and then forget that King Miller was the one that ran the ball all the way down there, call 3 straight passes and have to settle for a field goal. Ryan Sayeri, though, steps up. Clutch once again. They win by 4 points. He has 2 field goals on the road in a scary environment. If you're a kicker, with cold balls, hard balls, shouldn't be able to kick them far. He kicks a 49-yarder. He was fantastic once again. Lincoln Riley asked him about it after the game, if he's had a kicker like that, as a first-year guy that just steps in. He said, it's not supposed to be the way it goes. He said he's been one of the stories of the season so far for this USC team. So definitely positives there. Definitely the way the defense was able to make some adjustments after the opening drive. They got, Nebraska was able to run down the field on them, 14 plays, were able to pick up the third downs when they needed to, got a couple penalties in there as well. But they made the adjustments. They slowed down Emmett Johnson. I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but Emmett Johnson did not, he did break some tackles, but when he broke a tackle, there was another guy there. It wasn't, they weren't giving him one-on-one opportunities in open space, and then there was nobody behind him. They did a great job of rallying to the ball, so there'll be some missed tackle numbers there, but when you look at, what those missed tackles turned into, it wasn't a ton of extra yardage there for Emmett Johnson, so that was huge for USC, and especially after Dylan Raiola goes out, they were able to, key in on him, and you saw them actually bring 8 guys down into the box and say, hey, if you're going to beat us, then you're going to have to do it with TJ Lateef throwing over the top against us, and he couldn't connect on one of those deep balls.
No, he could not. King Miller, the player of the game for me tonight, he finishes with 18 carries for 129 yards and the touchdown. Ryan Sayeri, he was my other star of the game, so I guess I have 2 stars, 2 MVPs for the 2 field goals like you mentioned. And what do we talk about after Notre Dame? Shotgun. I was disappointed that USC couldn't take advantage of some of the stupid football that Notre Dame did in that game. And tonight, it was far from perfect, but USC, they took advantage of Nebraska's mistakes, like when Nebraska missed the field goal, USC gets the ball, and then they get points. And at the end of the game, when everyone knew that Nebraska could only run the ball, like you said, load the box with 8, and they made Nebraska beat him on the ground, and they weren't able to do that because they loaded up the box. So that gave me comfort that USC was able to take advantage of this one, because if the backup quarterback comes in and leads to a win over USC, that would have been very disappointing. The game totally did change, though, when Anthony Lucas strip-sacked Dylan Raiola with about 12 minutes left in the third quarter. At that point, it was 14-6 Nebraska, and when you're looking for a major turning point in this one, it was that. you don't want to play the what-if game, but USC was going down a slippery slope if Raiola had stayed in the game. He's limited himself, but they could at least throw the ball with him in there, and when Latif came in, that totally evaporated.
Well, it was a massive play because you think about the momentum swing of it. USC, their first possession of the second half, Jaden Maeva throws an interception that it looks like he double pumped and still just threw it right to the defender. So how does the defense respond to that? You got to stop to start the second half. You force the punt, and suddenly you're right back on the field in plus territory for the offense, for the Nebraska offense. And they come out and get a stop back. They get the ball back for USC. So it kind of felt like 2022 Oregon State to me, the way that the game was playing out, where the offense was just sputtering, but the defense was keeping them in it with some turnovers and some timely plays. And they get that huge turnover, and obviously it becomes even bigger when Dylan Raiola does not return the rest of the game, but was just a huge play because they were in field goal range. So they kick a field goal there, they go up 17-6 potentially, and you're down by 11 points, and it just becomes a completely different game, it feels like. But USC was able to respond after that, and so that's a positive thing to see. I think this game, you can't get too excited about it, but you can't get too down about it. It feels to me like it's a step. Can you grow from that step, though?
I'm not sure I'm there yet.
It's a step. The defense did what they needed to do, got off the field. That's something they haven't been able to do. You have to do it one time before you can believe you can do it the next time.
But weren't they always going through Nebraska with TJ Latif couldn't move the ball?
They moved it a couple times.
They had the one field goal drive.
And then in USC, given the...
which was aided by a boneheaded penalty.
Yeah, very boneheaded penalty there. But it's the small steps.
It is a small step.
I'm not saying it's a big step.
It's definitely not a big one. And the offensive play calling in this one, just some of the head-scratching calls with the run plays with Maeva, the two intentional grounding calls, the run plays that didn't work, some of them did work, and just him only completing, 9 passes for however many yards. I'm a little nervous about him as a thrower right now, which is a big surprise.
Yeah, he did not look comfortable in the pocket. He looked rushed when the pressure started getting there a little bit early. The receivers didn't make a couple catches that they could have made for him. They had the one down the field to Jaden Richardson earlier. It was in the great throw on that one in the breadbasket.
Flea flicker.
And then the flea flicker they did connect on later, which Lincoln Riley, it felt like had to get some redemption for the trick play that didn't work last time against Notre Dame. He's like, I'm going to get one, and that one was a huge play for them. But the big story was the run game. The fact that they continue to be able to run the ball, sans the Notre Dame game, the way they've been able to continue to run the ball despite playing musical chairs. Elijah Page comes back at left tackle, played pretty well. Have to rewatch to see. Maybe you have a better idea on that one. But you lose Alani Noah early in the game. Goes down, quickly gets up, goes to the tent, goes back to the locker room, training room, comes back out without a helmet. Maybe a head injury or something like that. But Kalen Miller steps in, a guy who, and Lincoln Riley said, he hasn't practiced much guard recently because of Killian O'Connor's injury. He's been the backup center, so he's been practicing backup center and not practicing guard. So he steps in there and clears a number of holes for his brother. Always fun to see two walk-on brothers. That connection once again coming through for USC. The best walk-on connection they've had that they've had in 20 years since Clay Matthews. But once again, those two guys doing work for USC, but really impressive with the offensive line being able to continue to create holes. Now, the way they were playing it, they were going to try to take away extra, the throw game. They were kind of daring them to run the ball and continue to run the ball, and they didn't always want to do that with the play calling. But I thought when they did key in on the running, then they were able to use Jaden Maeva's legs as well. I thought that was a nice wrinkle in this game. They haven't done it a ton past. He didn't scramble a bunch, once or twice, but he did keep it on some read options, which was very big for USC in this one.
This could be a stepping stone with Jaden Maeva's running ability. Leaning into that, like USC did in the second half, is significant. But I have a hard time, as we see the World Series going on behind us, a lot going on tonight. I just have a hard time saying, okay, this is what I can take from this game that I think USC can do moving forward, because the defense, while it was a nice performance, TJ Latif, he clearly wasn't ready to play, and he's the backup, and they did what they needed to do against the backup, but he completed 5 passes for 7 yards.
Yeah. But
I can't give the defense that much credit.
It's not like Raiola was on pace for 300 yards.
No, he wasn't, but he was better than His backup.
Well, of course, the starter's going to be better than the backup, Connor. I mean,
No, I know.
but I thought that they made some important stops even before Dylan Raiola.
They definitely did.
That one in particular, getting the turnover right there was really big. I think the defense took a step. I don't think Nebraska's a good team.
Yeah, me neither.
But it was important for them to find a way to do those things, for the defense to make the right plays.
What do you take as a stepping stone then? Defensive performance?
The defense, yeah, definitely. And the fact that they loaded up the box at times, that they did different things, that they haven't done necessarily in the past. So I think that it's a big game for USC to try to grow from. But we've seen these small steps before, and then they immediately take a step back. Michigan game, and then you immediately step back. Can they come out with the same energy when they play on Friday? You got a short week. They're going to get back at 3 a.m. Lincoln Riley mentioned it once again, how the Big Ten is treating them with the travel schedule. They'll get back at 3 a.m. They have a game on Friday. Can you come out with the same energy against Northwestern, or do you end up in a dogfight once again, even though you're playing at home? Yeah, it's not, you're not beating a really tough team, with all its weapons and everything, but you're doing something you haven't done, which is win on the road in a raucous environment. So can you build off of that, use momentum, and carry it forward? I thought the defensive front had a much better game in this one, created some havoc a little bit. Didn't necessarily get to the quarterback, but that wasn't – with the game plan that Nebraska had, everything was out of the hands immediately. So they weren't going to be able to get there a ton until the third and long type situation. So I take away the defense. I am, though, concerned about Jay Maeva back-to-back games where when the pressure's got there, he's looked a little bothered by it and hasn't bounced back quite as quickly. Did have a couple of really nice throws in the second half, but you want to see a little bit more from him. You want to see him grow the next time that he's pressured and faces the type of the pass rush that he's faced the last couple of games, getting to him a little bit.
I did think coming out of a bye, I expected a little bit more from the offense early where they would have been fresher, but I think they went 3 and out twice to start this game. That was somewhat of a surprise when the opening scripts have been so good for Riley this year for the most part. That was a surprise. King Miller, again, MVP, but like the passing game, Mekhi Lemon didn't really do a whole lot tonight, had a drop. You just think the one thing you're always going to have game in and game out, even if you lose like they did against Notre Dame, is that passing attack. And credit to Nebraska, they have good secondary play. I was just a little bit surprised. I always felt like that was something that you could bank on, and tonight it just wasn't really there.
Yeah, they got to go back to the drawing board there, but if you can run the ball, just stick with it.
It opens a lot up.
Just stick with it, though.
Yeah, stick with King Miller.
It was constantly in the second half, people going like, why don't they just run? Like at halftime, I had Nebraska photographers asking, like, why don't they just run the ball? They're running it for like 9 yards why are they not just running the ball? And I go, that's Lincoln Riley for you. He wants to throw it. Now you got to throw to set up the pass. You throw to set up the run sometimes. You got to stay balanced a little bit. But when you're just carving them up, just keep carving them up, it feels like. And they did that more in the second half. It's a game where you can have a lot of mixed feelings, I feel like. Oh, yeah. It's not satisfying, but it is a win.
Yep.
And a win on the road in the Big Ten, in cold environment, raucous, the blackout, all those type things.
This place sounded like a funeral a few times, I thought, in the second half.
Yeah.
They're in a worse spot than USC is on the road. Nebraska was giving this one away. Their fans after the game, classic Nebraska football. I had some classic interactions walking around here. But anyway.
Yeah, the fans were definitely upset. But while they were ahead, they were definitely into it. It was a great environment for 3 quarters.
For the most part.
For 3 quarters and 14 minutes or so. But I think it's a small step. Can you build on it? That's the biggest thing. It doesn't matter if you can't build on it. It's important to get a road win, and still, will this push them into immediately me thinking that they can go to Oregon and win? No. But can they build on it? That's the most important. It's about them in that locker room and what they do with this win versus, what we see on the outside. Because I think the defense, and I asked Devin Tompkins about it, what did it mean to get this? And he said, it was the conversation before, he said it was finish. And for them to get that, I think it means a lot because Minnesota, Maryland, Illinois, Notre Dame, every time they've had opportunities where if you get a stop, the victory might be yours. Maybe not Notre Dame necessarily there. Maybe a little bit earlier in the game. But in the fourth quarter, when the game's on the line, they haven't been able to do it. And this time they did.
Off the top of my head, Desmond Stevens plays better tonight. That was a nice performance from him, 10 tackles. And when USC did allow some bigger runs, they didn't go for 70 yards. They instead went for 13 or 14, and that was a big plus tonight. So defensively, definitely a step in the right direction, which was great, even though Nebraska did become very one-dimensional. On the flip side, 2 weeks in a row here, or 2 games in a row, are you concerned about Lincoln Riley as the play caller at all right now?
I mean, he's such a good play caller overall that, no, I don't think you can look at it and just be, but there are things that you question.
Yeah.
And, don't you question every play caller out there? I mean, even Andy Reid as a play caller.
Yes, but tonight it just seemed a little bit like the first third down play, the weird formation when you have the offensive lineman going off to the right, like, just run it with King Miller if you're going to do that. He averaged over, 6 yards per carry?
I said at the time, that's a play you run at the 40-yard line going in and on 3rd and 5. Okay, you get 2 yards, you're still going to go for it on 4th and 3. Not the opening possession, and in an environment like this, was not a big fan of that call. There were other calls that were similar that just kind of question, like, is that the right time for it?
Going away from Miller in the red zone.
Yeah, that one definitely, when you get to the 7-yard line, by run, I think there was one pass on that drive before that, or at least one completed pass, and then you get to the 7, you call 3 straight passes. I believe the last Jaden Maeva play was a scramble. So that's definitely was strange to me, especially, and had a great spot. I was ready for a great photo for King Miller to come in and score. I got one later with him scoring, but he again continues to be the story. He's been spectacular for them. For your 4th-string running back at the start of the year to do the things that he's done as a walk-on, even if he wasn't a walk-on, your 4th-string running back, might be maybe the story of the year. No, not the story of the year, but he's up there. He's one of the top 3 stories of the season for USC so far right now, and it just continues every game he comes out, and he's consistent. He barely ever loses yardage. When he gets hit, he's always falling forward. He's always getting that extra yard or 2 after contact that maybe doesn't show up as a big run necessarily, but it turns a 1-yard gain into a 3-yard gain. Those small things he does over and over, he's just been really good. And one of the things that I'm curious to see going forward is, how does Lincoln Riley get Mekhi Lemon back on track? Because the last 2 games, the first game was, they shadowed them the entire time. This game, he had Sierra Wright on him a ton, and Sierra Wright's obviously their best cornerback. They had moved him into the nickel a couple games back. So how do you get him back on track and get the offense kind of back into its flow? Him and Jaden Maeva. And maybe that's not a coincidence that when he's not finding Mekhi Lemon and getting that yards after catch, that Jay Maeva is not looking quite as good, because that has been his safety blanket throughout this season. So getting those 2 back connected and finding some. And they never really hit the tight ends over the middle. I thought that was something that they would kind of attack too in this game. That never happened. So it'll be interesting to see how the offense develops from here, how they continue to grow, and how they continue to try to attack going forward off of it. But again, I say it's a step. Not a big step, but it's a step. And winning on the road gives you an opportunity to keep all those things that Lincoln Riley talked about all through the bye. We've got everything in front of us, right? We got everything to play for. We got big things to play for. And because you found a way to win, even if only by 4 points, you still have those opportunities. But they got to clean a ton of stuff up if they want that. I mean, from some of the missed tackles and stuff, like we said against Emmett Johnson, you don't shake your head at necessarily, because you had guys rallying to the ball and doing a really good job. But the penalties, like the boneheaded penalty, talking to the sideline on after you get a 6-yard loss with a quarterback that can't throw the ball, you got him at 2nd and 16, you're about to get off the field.
False start on 4th and 2 at the goal line.
At the goal line, exactly.
It's just not clean, man. The operation's just not clean.
That's probably the best way to put it. It still is not clean, and that's probably the most concerning thing about it, is they consistently are not finding a way to be, since you played the mid-major teams, it has not really been clean since then. Can they continue to grow? Yes, it's possible, but we got to start seeing it. Now's the crunch time to do it. You find a way to win, great. Now grow from it.
I agree. It's going to all be about growth for USC right now, because I think it's fair to say, Shotgun, offensively, this formula tonight I don't think is going to get them where they got to be, especially against Oregon. But USC 6-2, they're favored. They should be favored the rest of the way outside of that game. They're still in the hunt for everything. Being 6-2 in November is huge. Just the one loss in the Big Ten. It might not seem like that's the situation after tonight, where there were some disappointing things happening, but they won the game, and you're right. That's the biggest thing,
Still
and they
in the running.
do all have it ahead of them. I just don't think tonight was a performance that leads me to be very confident moving forward.
Yeah, it doesn't give you necessarily a ton of confidence, especially when they go on the road and they go to Oregon, because this was similar to the road games they've had. However, if you get Killian O'Connor back in at center, the offense has started sputtering a little bit after his injury. We'll see if maybe that changes things. You get Elijah Page back, Alani Noah. I don't think that was a long-term injury that he was suffering from. So if that happens, you get your original offensive line. Does the offense start flowing a little bit better too there? So I think there's things that you can look at and think positively and think it will continue to grow. There's definitely things you look at and go, oh no, this is going to come back and bite them really hard in a different game. But tonight it didn't. Ultimately, it didn't. Yeah. They find a way to win. They get the 21-17 victory. Low-scoring affair, cold affair. But, hey, Big Ten football on the road, that's kind of what this felt like. So all that matters is getting the victory.
Something we've talked a lot about on our podcast, style points. We're going to talk a lot about them, but they don't matter when you get the win, and they needed it.
Well, they will start mattering starting Tuesday when the college football playoff rankings start coming out. So style points will matter a lot more the last 5 games, as well as getting those victories. So we'll see if they can get both of those going forward.
That's going to be important. He's Shotgun Spratling. I'm Connor Morrissette. Thanks for watching. Instant after USC takes down Nebraska on the road, 21-17. We'll see you next time.